for joining. Sir is joining in 5 minutes.
We'll start, madam.
Yeah. Keshav, very good morning to one and all present here. Today's chief guest, Mr. Abhay Phansikar, past chair of IEEE Bombay section, Professor B.N. Chowdhury, principal of Sardar Patel Institute of Technology, Professor Y.S. Rao, vice principal of SPIT, Dr. Reena Sonfusre, HOD of Electronics and Telecommunication, all deans, HOD, my fellow colleagues, faculty and participants. On behalf of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Sardar Patel Institute of Technology, I, Dr. Sujata Kulkarni, course coordinator of AICT Training and Learning FDP, welcome you all for today's inaugural function. To make this morning a blessed one, invoke Goddess Saraswati by kindling the lamp of knowledge and wisdom. For seeking the choicest blessing for the same, I invite our chief guest along with all the dignitaries to kindle the lamp virtually. Keshav, can you please play? Thank you all. At the outset, as an Atal FDP coordinator, I sincerely thank to 160 participants across the nation for selecting our FDP. Special thanks to Atal team for the accepting and grant the proposal of this FDP. I sincerely thank my organizing team members from the electronics department as well as electronics and telecommunication department. Management of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Principal Sir, Vice Principal Sir and HOD of EXPC for their support. Design thinking started out as a process of creating slick new technology and product. Now it's widely used across both the private and public sector for business and personal and educational projects all around the world. The course objectives are nurture design thinking as a culture to drive innovation in educational organization that increasing student and faculty engagement. Define innovation, challenges key stakeholders and creating prototypes. Develop ability to arrive at deeper user insights that helps to solve real world problems. Develop design-led thinking for products and services. I would like to extend to each one a cordially welcome to this FDP. I hope you enjoy the event for the next 5 days. Now I request today's chief guest, Mr. Abhay Phansikar, and all the dignitaries to inaugurate the Atal FDP on design thinking, practical perspective on decision-making education. Abhay sir, can I play this slide virtually?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Keshav, please. Yeah. Thank you all. Now, today we have with us the esteemed personality, Mr. Abhay Phansikar. Mr. Abhay Phansikar has over 35 years of experience in the field of product development, embedded solution, and technical marketing. Some of the systems he developed include mission-critical military-grade system, air traffic control, the radar tracking system, and healthcare ERP and the portals. He is a senior member of IEEE, past chairman of IEEE Bombay section, and also a mentor on the Startup Bootcamp, one of the top 3 global accelerates startups. He is also associated with education as an external faculty to the engineering colleges. Without wasting the time, I request sir to please share his views. Sir,
Thank
yes.
you, Dr. Kulkarni,
Yeah,
and my respect to all the dignitaries over here and the participants. I will quickly share my views on design thinking. I'll do it in a 3-slide presentation, so I won't take too long.
yes, sir. Just a minute, sir. Keshav, please stop the sharing.
Yes, ma'am. So can present now.
Yeah, yeah. Sir, you can now present, share your screen.
Yeah, so are you able to see the slide?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So design thinking is a term that's used to represent a set of cognitive, strategic, and practical processes. I will not go through explaining all of these because that's what we'll be learning in this 5-day course. But basically, it means that you're going to develop either products or an architectural building or even things like communication by sign languages. You think of anything, you will be able to come up with an improved product if you go and take the step of design thinking. Design thinking is also associated with innovation in a big way. So innovation for business or even innovation for social context. It's like simple thing like if you want to travel to your relatives and like 2 or 3 families are coming together and meeting, even planning for them, you could take design thinking principles and come up with a very effective plan. Some of the basic fundamentals of design thinking are simplify. Whatever problem you have at hand, if you present a problem in a complex manner, it's going to lead to an inefficient or a subnormal, suboptimal design. The more you simplify the problem, the better will be the solution. The second thing is you also at times will have to restructure what the problem is. If you restructure the problem, you'll be able to come up with a solution very quickly. A typical example is when my boss comes and says, "Hey, we've got a new contract, and by end of the month, we have to recruit 10 Java engineers." Well, fundamentally, the problem is not recruiting 10 Java engineers. Fundamental problem, if you look at it, are sourcing 100 Java engineer CVs so that you can narrow down to 10, or scheduling interview of at least 30 Java engineers so that they can be selected within a short period of time. Now, the problem manifests itself in a different manner altogether over here. Getting 10 engineers is not the problem. It is how will you source those 100 CVs, because uh, you, your general recruitment ratio is 1:10 when it comes to CVs and 3:10 when it comes to interviews. So when you restructure the problem differently, that by this day you want to source 100 CVs, that means you'll have to basically employ 5 more recruiters, or you will have to subscribe to a higher plan on various websites, whatever it may be. So simplification is one thing, restructuring of the problem is another thing, and fundamentally you'll have to have qualities of learning continuously. Anyone who's in solution engineering, that person has to keep the thinking hat open. The person also has to keep eyes and ears open to observe what's happening in that domain. Also have to find patterns that work. So a typical distribution problem, if you look at it, is you have to distribute products to, say, source from 100 places and deliver to 100 places, but you don't have people who are technologically savvy going to operate those systems. So you'll have to observe, and a typical example is the Mumbai Dabbawalas, as you know. Their case study is now being taught at even institutions like Harvard as to how they are able to distribute the tiffin boxes. You also have to iterate. I mean, all the solutions that one develops needs enhancement continuously. If you think you have developed one solution and that's the end, it's not correct. I mean, you may not use the enhancement for years, but if you don't keep on thinking about enhancements, your product will suddenly become obsolete and you will not be able to replace. And another important quality is empathy. You have to empathize with users. I mean, if I create a very nice institute management system or student management system, but if I ask the teachers to fill in 10 forms at the end of the day, it's not going to work. And even though by filling those 10 forms, it will make the life of teachers easy, it will make the life of institution easy, but fundamentally, you have to look at the psychology of teachers, and are they going to fill 10 forms after every lecture? So those are the considerations that you have to do. And you also can look at many other things that are happening in nature, like swarm of bees. How do they make the honeycomb? How is it able to sustain that kind of load when there is no balancing weight or support from bottom? How are the bees able to communicate to each other to ensure that they are going to basically create one specific honeycomb? There are many things that you can look at it, learn, and observe. So whether it's an anthill or whether it's an swarm of bees, nowadays you will see a lot of computer science literature being developed looking at these natural phenomenon also. So this whole thing about design thinking is practical oriented solutions and continuous innovation. I'll share a couple of slides on some of the latest developments that are happening. Are you able to see this slide? It's called Boeing 777X.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah. So, I mean, we recently had this new marvel in aviation called Airbus 380, a two-storied aircraft with wider wings and taking people across 15 hours very comfortably. But it has led to certain challenges I mean, with respect to it having four engines, fuel efficiency. Secondly, is airports had to create multi-level gates. Now, in the current era, when a need for maybe faster aircraft and a smaller aircraft which can carry passengers. I mean, you don't have an hub bespoke concept now. You carry people point to point. So the challenge that came up was you needed an aircraft which will use two engines for better fuel efficiency. And to design this kind of an aircraft, you have certain challenges. If you carry more weight, you will need larger wings because you're just having two engines. So your aircraft needs to be lifted by larger wings. The second consideration that you have to make is when you are carrying this load and you are landing, your aircraft needs to have smaller wings because a larger wing will give a lift. So when the aircraft comes to land, the air will still try to push the aircraft up, and which will mean that you will require larger runways again, and braking would be difficult. So you need to have a larger wing for lift, you need to have a smaller wing for landing, and you cannot have a wing which is more than the standard wing size, because all the aircraft gates are designed as per a standard wing size, and movement across a runway and in an airport would be very, very difficult if aircrafts come up with uh, larger wings. So to counter these problems, Boeing 777X, if you see the photograph on the top, now has foldable wings, and these wings can be folded whenever you are traveling. So when you come to land, you fold the wings inside. When you are in a turbulent area, you should not be thrown up very high. You again fold the wings, and when you take off at the start of the runway, you open the wings so that you get a better lift. So these are the kind of solutions which people look at. So the fundamental problem of a new aircraft, I mean, you could have designed a new system and then have asked the airports to accommodate a larger wing aircraft. That would not have worked. So as I said, empathy, looking at the existing infrastructure, is a fundamental key to design thinking. You also have larger engines now, and the larger engines are not mounted on top of the wing. So you have to have now design considerations which make the engines maintainable. At the same time, if the aircraft comes very low, the engine should not be get damaged. All of these considerations are now there. You will see in the Boeing 777X. If you study that case, it's a very good design thinking case. They also have made an optimal length of fuselage. So they have used an existing aircraft body and then fitted everything around that. They have made the reuse of landing gear. So when you are designing a system, you also have to think whether you want to uh, kind of do everything from scratch or make use of things that are possible, which may last for longer time and may not have a huge amount of cost implications if you were to redesign them. So these kind of things, using usage of existing simulator, because you now have the same landing gear, you now have the same aircraft body, fuselage is aircraft wireframe body, which means you're going to use exactly the same simulator. And that's a great advantage in launching a new aircraft. You do it, you're able to do it quickly, you are able to reduce the cost, and retraining of people is kind of easily done, and you don't have to uh, alter the airport infrastructure. So these are certain advantages that you have been able to put in by bringing in design thinking principles. And if you are to look at a simple embedded solution, as we teachers, we tell people to do a lot of hardware projects as their final year project, and people just assemble certain kits and make the solution. Now, is that a solution which will kind of shape up in a product? So when you are looking at an simple embedded solution, you also have to look at what exactly is the need of the client. As I said, you can restructure the problem slightly differently. You have to understand the completeness of an application. So what is a complete solution for them? Many times we see that people develop a solution which is half baked. They say this will improve your efficiency by 50%, but another 50% you'll have to do manual, or you'll have to buy in another part and then use them. It's like developing a washing machine. You could develop a washing machine which is an integrated washing machine, but then you run into problems if uh, one part goes, the whole washing machine goes off. Or you could do a split tub washing machine. So you can only do washing in that, or you can only do drying. And if one motor fails, the other motor is still working. Or you can have two separate tubs. One is only a wash tub and one is only a dryer, so that you can reduce the size of the machine and reduce the need of the motor. You can have a single motor for washing and drying. You can have multiple motors for washing and drying. So these are various things that you need to look at. Then failure modes and quick uptime. What if the machine fails? How quickly are you able to repair it and bring it up? You also have to consider environment, whether it's harsh or normal, and design accordingly. You have to look at integration of various sensors, controllers. You need to think about uh, what hardware to use. Should I use this hardware because it's cheaper, or should I use this hardware because it comes from branded company and it's going to be available for another 20 years? These are the kind of considerations that will go in developing a product. So your engineering aspect is one, and basically it should control something is one aspect, but these are other aspects that you have to consider. The consideration of an embedded solution. So suppose in a washing machine you're putting in electronic controllers. You have to make sure that the port size is small. You also have to design for testing. I mean, how can you test a washing machine when everything is sealed? What's going to be the mechanism? So typically, what we do is we put in a Bluetooth chip and control it remotely. We test the whole thing, and once the whole product is proven, we remove the Bluetooth portion and reduce the cost of the plate. So, what kind of test cases are required? That also is very important. Just designing a solution is not complete. You also have to think of the various testing modes. What are the kind of people who are going to use, and how they are going to use this system? So once you have done all of this, being in an electronics industry, you also have to consider lead time for fabrication. I mean, if you're doing just 100 washing machines, you will not get a PCB lab who will deliver those boards. They give preference to people who are ordering 1,000 boards per day. So they will run your batch maybe only when their machine is idle, and that could come up after 3 weeks. So that rework cost, if something goes wrong with your board and you have to repair it, do you have to throw the board completely, or is it repairable? While considering all of this, obsolescence is an important factor. In an electronics industry, products become obsolete very fast. So how are you going to take care of that? And along with that, typically scalability of your solution, then security, maintainability, they all come up. So when we look at design thinking, what I'm telling you is you don't have to consider all these parameters at the start of your design and then try to say that I'll shape up my design in this. But what you really have to do is come up with a worksheet where you have looked into all of these parameters, and you can say that my system is not scalable, my system is not reworkable, my system may become obsolete in 2 years. I'm fine with it. My system, I'm going to use this operating system because I only understand that operating system. So it's it's fine to design with these considerations, but what you have to understand is you have to take these things into consideration. So once you look at uh, design thinking as a fundamental building block of building your solution, you'll come up with better better solutions. And this FDP is going to take you through the journey of building better solutions for education. I have purposely not touched education in this because that's what we are going to learn. And my experience of SPIT previously is they have done fantastic programs. I mean, all the speakers have been very good. The quality has been very good, and I'm sure that everyone over here will enjoy this 5 day journey and will have a lot of takeaways for betterment of our career. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an informative and you just highlight the key aspects about the design thinking along with the recent example. Thank you so much. Behalf of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Sardar Patel of Institute of Technology, we express our gratitude to Abhay Fansikal, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to request Principal, please, sir, please share your views. Principal, sir.
Yeah, good morning, all, one and all, and a warm welcome to this FDP. At first, let me wish you a very productive and happy New Year 2022. We have witnessed very challenging 2021. We have had a lot of disruptions. Still, those are continuing. The COVID fear is still there, but we are passing through. I mean, we are accelerating ourselves, and we are thinking of going ahead. And I wish you all a very healthy and prosperous and productive New Year 2022. Dr. Sujata Kulkarni, the coordinator of this FTP, chief guest of today's function, Sri Abhay Pansikar, my colleagues, Professor Rao, Professor Taile, team, coordination team, Dr. Sneha, and Pallavi Deshpande, uh, HOD of Electronics Department, Dr. Reena, a motivator for such activities at SPIT, Professor Kiran, dear faculty member and dear participants from several institutions across Maharashtra and from many institutions outside Maharashtra as well. It gives indeed a great pleasure to me on welcoming you to today this morning, little bit cold morning at Pune. I'm talking to you directly from Pune, and it's very charming atmosphere, and we are stepping into new year, and it's wonderful thought that you have began this new year journey with a new learning. Design thinking has been we are hearing this term from few years, and for many of us it is a new term coined, and people every on multiple platforms are stressing the importance of design thinking. Friends, if you look around, innovations is driving the world today. If we look at different walks of our life, everywhere innovations are dominating, whether those are products, consumer products, or our communication gadgets or softwares, apps. uh, Innovation have really changed the game. In who had thought कि without owning a single car there can be a giant like Uber or Ola? Who has thought without owning a single room there can be there a business of $1 billion or more, billions of dollars can be established in the form of online booking? People are innovating in services, people are innovating in products, people are innovating in banking sector, different financial products, financial derivatives in a financial market are indicate, indicators of this. We as a country have also declared this century as a century of innovations for the country. Uh, last century, the nature of jobs haven't changed much over in a span of 70, 80 years. We produce manpower for the factories and industries. That was the goal of education. This century, we have witnessed it has started with disruptions, and the disruptions are continued, and newer businesses are emerging, and education has to prepare innovators. This is the mandate of this century. A good institutions should look at producing or embedding innovation, embedding design thinking uh, in the thought process of their graduates, because this probably that will be key for survival in this century, right? Or otherwise, jobs are going. I mean, this AI, machine learning will eat several jobs, and unless newer and newer areas, newer and newer product, newer and newer jobs profiles are produced, it will be difficult to find to absorb the mm, young generation. And hence it is very important that we have some understanding of this design thinking. On every walk of life we must uh, give it mm, thought on this very important aspect today, whether it is product development, whether it is developing different services, or whether it is education. Design thinking, I know nothing about design thinking. I would also like to learn with you. I will try to attend few lectures wherever time permits me. But somewhere I have read that design thinking it is a 5-step process. You need to emphasize, yeah. Then you need to define the problem. You need to ideate, make a prototype, and then test it. So this is a 5-stage process. You understand. You first empathize the users, and then understand user needs in a better way. Then you ideate the problem, concept level. Then you make a prototype, and then you test it. So these 5 process, and we need to also use these processes even in the education, whether it is our classroom design, curriculum design, or laboratory courses, laboratory experiments. And instead of just repeating the same experience which we had done 20 years back or 25 years back. We need to step out, come out with a new laboratories, new laboratory experience, which will which will challenge the bright minds, will trigger them to innovate, trigger them their thought processes. Perhaps it appears that we may have to discard our mini laboratories and traditional laboratories and innovate new ways and new methods. I wish you a very exciting week, and I have gone through the schedule. Uh, Dr. Sujata has very wisely put up the schedule, and she has covered lot many aspects, and she has invited so many speakers from different domains. Uh, Experts, and I'm sure this first week of this new year will be an opening a new era for you, showing a new part to you, and it will be an enriching experience. I wish you all the best, and feel free to reach us should you have whether if you have any problem. Do reach us. We'll try to give a solution. So I wish you all the best. uh, Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for such a encouragement and the motivation. Now I would like to request Vice Principal Professor Y.S. Rao to say few words. Rao, sir.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
am I audible?
Yeah, sir. Clearly.
Yeah, good morning, one and all. Welcome to SPIT. Principal Dr. B.N. Chaudhary, sir, and today's chief guest, Abhay Pansekar. My colleagues, and most importantly, all the delegates. Thanks to this online education, ICT tools, almost the participants are 96 plus. This has never happened, though we used to have this kind of a workshop for several years. There were times, in spite of having a very good speakers, we have conducted the workshops with 10 people. But yeah, maybe because of this online education, we are able to get the speakers, most importantly, expert speakers across the nation. And even the audience, like-minded audience. No, see, people are interested in attending the workshops, but the traveling, sponsorship, all these are issues. This is one good thing. This is the only one good thing I would say in this pandemic situation has happened. That is, importance of this ICT tools has increased. Yeah, Dr. B.N. Chaudhary used to say, even if the pandemic situation is not there in future, but we are going to operate this hybrid mode of online as well as offline. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Complete online is also not good. We do understand, particularly the maturity level. These school education or this engineering education as engineering itself is a primary level education, undergraduate education. So maybe at PhD level or maybe or MTech some dissertation levels, it's okay, or the faculty development programs. But I still feel, yeah, offline is undoubtedly we cannot replace it. This workshop, this 5 days workshop on design thinking, as Chaudhary sir has rightly mentioned, these are all, it's very difficult to understand, design thinking and practical perspective, decision making in education. Even if you spend years and years on these words, still we feel that, still there's a lot, many things to understand. We know Government of India has announced this National Education Policy 2020. that itself is a lot thought-provoking document. I mean, I am really doubtful have we really understood what the document says. After 50 years, or I would say after Britishers rule, now we are talking about create the designers or create the inventors, do not create the clerks, right? I mean, do not create the those who cannot think, because see, Britishers has a different thought process, right? They want to create slaves. Nobody should take decisions, right? Nobody should challenge them. So that's the reason why their entire education policy was just to create clerical sort of education, no thought process, no thinking. So I'm very happy, at least looking at this title itself. It says think, decision, education, perspective, practical. Right? It itself is, I mean, it indicates the complete the policy of national education policy. But then, you know, we are all professors and we are doubtful. I am doubtful, in spite of a lot of these policies are happening. But then, have we really understood the gist of it and start using that? I am doubtful, because majority of the times we have seen people. The AICT said make a vision, we will make a mission. If AICT says make a vision, mission will make a mission. If say outcome-based education, we will start writing some points. I mean, it's like a documents which we are creating. But I'm really, from bottom of my heart, I'm really doubtful. Have we really understood what these policies are saying? So it is happening like copy-paste sort of a thing, because it's a mandatory. So let us create the documents. I'm happy. I'm very, very happy about this Atal FDP AICT programs. Earlier there was a very rare chance of conducting such type of workshops, but now they are proactively sponsoring these workshops, so that at least they used to say, for example, before you become a king, the prince is supposed to travel the entire country or visit the other country, then you start ruling. It's because, see, unless you understand the problems, unless you see what others are doing, right? That kind of a vision, you don't get it. So probably this is a very good platform. Like I was listening to Abhay sir. I mean, he was talking the entire journey of a product in a few minutes of time. I know it's very difficult to digest those things, but then, yeah, nicely has given a very good examples. So, that is my appeal to all of you. It's not just, we are not attending just for the certificate. Yeah, very good. 100 is crossed, Sujata madam, century. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's my appeal. It's not just for a certification we are doing. Just think about what the speakers are saying. And I'm sure slowly, we'll try to inculcate this kind of a culture into our systems. All the best, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for your motivation. Thank you so much. Now I request just quick HOD, Dr. Reena Sonkusre. Please give the best wishes to our participants. Total 160 participants are there, ma'am. So please.
Thank you, Dr. Sujata madam. Respected Principal Dr. B.N. Chaudhary, Vice Principal Dr. Y.S. Rao, distinguished Chief Guest Mr. Abhay Pansikar, Deans, HOD, my colleagues, and all my dear participants, a very good morning to one and all. And wish you a very, very happy and a prosperous new year. On behalf of Electronics and Telecommunication Department, we are happy to welcome you all to AICT Atal Faculty Development Program on Design Thinking, Practical Perspective on Decision Making Education. Design thinking is an innovative, creative, and human-centered process and mindset that employs collaborative multidisciplinary teams in order to generate user-focused product services or finding solutions for wicked problems in a variety of educational settings. It has been applied beyond the original sphere of design work to business, engineering, technology, and more recently, education because of its ability of advancing creativity and innovation by applying an empathetic, flexible, and iterative approach. With the quest for a teaching strategy for 21st century skills, work habits, and character traits, there has been in the past 5 years keen and wide interest towards design thinking as applied in education. Design thinking is important to teach any student learning in this 21st century. Empathy is something that everyone should have, and by teaching it through design thinking, we can develop empathy while not even realizing it. Design thinking encourages us to be creative and solve problems in new ways. Specifically, this FDP is trying to answer to these four questions. What are the characteristics of the design thinking that make it particularly fruitful for education? How is design thinking applied in different educational settings? What tools and techniques and methods are characteristics for design thinking? And what are the limitations or negative effects of this design thinking? On the other hand, design thinking in higher education is mostly attached to a specific discipline or cluster of courses where the process is made to be as close as possible to how designers actually conduct it. Thus, properly teacher support, resource allocation, and development is needed to effectively apply these design thinking both as a course design and as a teaching strategy. The main aim of this FDP is to describe the current knowledge base to gain an improved understanding of the role of design thinking in education, to enhance research communication and discussion of best practices approaches, and to chart immediate avenues for research and practice. Once again, a very warm welcome to all the participants of this Atal FDP. I hope you will enjoy this week and take away many useful things about design thinking, which is applicable for an educational setup. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for your motivation. I shall now quickly share the few important points about the program. This is 5-day online FDP under the Atal Academy. There will be 3 sessions every day of 90 minutes each, total 14 sessions and additional validatory function on the day 5, mainly participant sharing and takeaway. Participants' attendance shall be marked digitally, so I request participants to join the session before the scheduled time. Each session we are taking the attendance. Test link shall be shared half an hour before the examination on the last day, that is day 5. Request to all participants to log in with the register mail ID. Keep video and the microphone off throughout the session. Request to please put your queries and the questions in the chat box. So this marks the end of the inauguration ceremony. I once again thank all the dignitaries for their presence during the ceremony. Thank you so much all. Thank you so much. We would be starting the next session for 2 days shortly. Thank you all.